Good evening and welcome to the Speakeasy podcast. I am your host, Constance Willard, and good evening to each of you. And this is October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and today I have three guests that are going to come and share their story and their journey with breast cancer. Two of them are breast cancer survivors. The third one, who will come on later in the show, is going to come and talk about wellness and nutrition in relation to breast cancer. So I'm going to bring my first guest up, Coach Linda Brooks Johnson. Good evening, Linda. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you this evening?
I am doing great. So tell the audience who Linda Brooks Johnson is.
Okay. Uh, I am a mother of two. I'm a 24-year two-time breast cancer survivor, and I'm a life coach, public speaker for breast cancer patients and survivors, along with divorce, grief, and parenting, caregiving, coaching. I don't coach anything that I haven't gone through. Um, my journey with breast cancer started in 1999 when I was diagnosed with evasive ductal carcinoma. And that's the type of breast cancer that majority of women, when they get it, well, back then, it was the most common. Um, I happened to have found the lump when I was pregnant with my last child, but didn't know I was pregnant with him. 10 months after that, I found out that I was carrying him when I had found the tumor. But 6 months after I had him via C-section, I found out that the tumor that I found was a malignant tumor, and therefore I had to go through treatment. At the time of the diagnosis, everything was good, insured. My ex-husband had me insured, but when he left, he wound up sometimes after that canceling the insurance. So there I was with a 28-month-old, a 6-month-old. Husband walked out and no insurance. So you know who I had to call on, and that man sure was the one that brought me through it. I got through that. The marriage ended some years later. Moving on to 2018, second diagnosis. This time I elected to have both breasts removed via mastectomy. Did go through one cycle of chemo and then I stopped it. And really, my saving grace has been my spiritual faith and my walk with God. Without that, I know there's no way I could have made it through that. And my favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, to give you an expected end. And I held to that, and I held close to God to keep that promise to me. And thankfully, today we're cancer free.
And you're standing tall. And
Yes.
It's 28 years later. Wow, that is an amazing story.
Yes.
But now tell the audience, if you are able to, what resources are available. You mentioned your insurance being canceled. And, I just learned since doing this podcast this month that these larger organizations like the Komen Foundation
Mhm.
and the American Cancer Society, they raise all this funding, but it's
Mhm.
not to support the victims
No.
financially.
No.
And I was
And,
very shocked and dismayed by that discovery. So
and
what?
that's a very good analogy because really I didn't have any of those resources. I was diagnosed when I was living in Texas with the first diagnosis. And I tell you, the hospital that I was privy to be in and go through the treatment was a Catholic hospital. And they were the ones that stepped in and gave me resources for me and my children, um, even down to covering the hospital bills, the medication, and all of that. Um, I didn't have any organizations to rally in behind me. I even had um, someone that I didn't even know that God had put my name on her mother's heart, that they were benefactors. I would go to the mailbox and there would be checks in the mailbox from people I didn't know and couldn't find out who did it, because when I contacted the church, they were just told to tell me that it was God and that He loved me and that He was going to take care of me. So I don't know what resources I can even tell anybody. The resource I had was the main source, and that was God.
Wow, wow, that is an amazing story. And so, and you, this was a Catholic hospital that assisted you, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, I just want to get all the information I can
Mm-hmm.
as far as resources to provide to the audience that's listening, because it's just nothing available,
Mm-mm.
nothing available out there. And it really, really bothered me when I heard um, that we have people who are going through that. And then I thought about parents that have children
Mm-hmm.
that are suffering, have to take off from work to come and stay with that child because they can't leave the child there by themselves.
Exactly.
And so there's that income gone. What do they
Mm-hmm.
do? And so I'm going to ask of you and the other panelists each time,
Mm-hmm.
if you are aware of community services or resources, please share them so we can
Ugh.
get the word out to help others.
There are a few things that are out there. My second experience in 2018, when here in Atlanta, was a very devastating experience for me, because those the social worker that I sought out um, to help me pretty much didn't want to, because all of the things, the resources that she was giving me, when I kept telling her, I've gone and I've researched that, and that's not a viable resource that I can even go to. And she just got to the point where she didn't even want to deal with me.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was very disheartening, and it was very concerning, because I'm thinking we're being put in place for social workers and hospital personnel that are to assist us, only to find out you're pretty much on your own.
Wow. That is just, it's very disheartening.
Hmm.
It really is. And so that's one reason why I chose to take this on and to join the fight and to help continue the fight, because it's just so much that I'm learning,
Hmm.
so much that I'm able to share with the listening audience. So, Linda, I thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, you're
So,
more
what
than
type
welcome.
of advocacy are you involved with?
Uh, I try to get the word out about self wellness, making sure you do your monthly exams, making sure you stay in check and take ownership of your body. Don't just let people tell you what you need, but be intentional about making sure that you are the navigator of anything you need in your life. Nobody knows you better than you, and finding out what works with you and what doesn't work for you is the best you that you can have, is being informed, being intentional, and making sure you are heard.
Wow. Okay. So, thank you so much. So, next, I'm going to bring up Marlena. Marlena, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great. So, tell the audience about Marlena.
Yes. So I am Marlena Murphy and I am 45 years old. I am a mother of a 15-year-old daughter. I am a full-time grad student working on a master's in clinical mental health counseling, and I am an advocate, breast cancer advocate for Turning Point Breast Cancer Rehabilitation. I serve as a community advocate. I serve as a volunteer advocate for My Style Matters. And I am a program manager for an organization called GRASP, which is guiding researchers and advocates to scientific partnerships. So I play multiple roles. And I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So my journey started, I would actually say before 2018. It started in 2017 when, during the year that I was 40, I went to my primary care provider November of that year, and we discussed getting a mammogram. And I specifically remember her saying, because I don't have a family history, it may turn out that I could have like a false positive, and basically it was a situation where it wasn't quote like necessary. Well, fast forward to May of 2018. And then all along, I should say this, all along I had been doing my normal monthly breast checks myself. So May of 2018, doing my normal monthly breast checks. In the shower, I felt something that felt like a lump on the left side of my breast. And I proceeded to feel on the right side, didn't feel anything like that on the right side. Went back and forth with it. And so it was clearly a lump on the side of my left breast. And ultimately, I scheduled an appointment with my primary care provider. We went in, she felt the lump. With my healthcare system, they automatically schedule a mammogram and an ultrasound when there's a lump. And so that happened. And then eventually I got a biopsy. And then the biopsy showed that it was cancer, and specifically that it was stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. So I went through all the different tests that occur. And triple negative, I should just add that it is a type of breast cancer that is tends to be more prevalent in African American women, Hispanic women, younger women as well. So I went through different series of tests, scans, brain MRI, breast MRI, bone scans, so many different tests. And then eventually I started treatment, which was chemotherapy from August of 2018 through December of 2018. And then I had a lumpectomy the following year. Then I went through radiation, and then I took chemo pills. And so the treatment ended November 2019. Fast forward, continued to do my checks. Also, I had mammograms every 6 months. And what ended up happening was my left breast was swollen. Well, the thing about it is that it had always been swollen because of radiation and because of the lumpectomy. So to me, it wasn't abnormal. But my physical therapist with Turning Point Breast Cancer Rehabilitation, she was the one who basically was like, Marlena, this is an abnormal swelling. And so I moved up a 6-month appointment that I was going to have with my oncologist. I moved that up for follow up. And they told me I would get a mammogram to kind of ease my mind. I had been Googling. I'm thinking, what type of breast cancer is this? Because at that point, I know there are multiple types. And originally, I had to advocate for myself because originally my mammogram was going to be in May. Here it is, February. And I said, no. I need to have this sooner than later because, again, I felt something. Fast forward, I ended up feeling something else on the right side, but in my armpit. And it was over a weekend and went away. It was a smaller lump, but it moved, which was completely different from the other side. It did not move. And I eventually got a biopsy. And so I received a second diagnosis March of 2022 with metastatic triple negative breast cancer. And so I have been in treatment again since May of 2022, receiving chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And so at this point, there are different types of treatments now. And one of the different types is immunotherapy, where it's a medication that works with your immune system. And so through all of this, just like Coach Linda, I rely on my faith with God. By his stripes, I am healed. I declare every single day, I am prospering. I'm doing great. I'm in school. I'm in internship. I'm raising my daughter. I feel like when you receive a cancer diagnosis, it's not an automatic death sentence.
Mm-mm.
It is, okay, here's a situation. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to allow this to work in your favor? How are you going to move towards your purpose and what God has for you? And so
Wow.
that's a summary of my story.
I'll tell you what, you two have some amazing stories, both of you. You're providing a lot of encouragement. I mean, even for me, and I'm not a breast cancer survivor or patient, but you're encouraging me because of your steadfastness, fastness, and your trust in God.
Mm.
You know, a lot of people don't understand the importance of that because
Oh,
at the end of the day, that's all you got.
yep.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, the doctors can do all this research and all this treatment, and they can make all these predictions. But at the end of the day, all we have is God.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I thank both of you so much for what you're doing, for advocating, for encouraging. And so I'm going to start with you, Coach Linda. What encouragement or motivation can you provide to the listening audience today? Or for that woman or man that's out there suffering with breast cancer right now?
I think the main thing, if anything, I could say it's to anybody, period. Make sure you get and establish a personal relationship with God. Because without that, when the storms and the trials of life hit, there's no way you can make it on your own. I don't I don't know of anything that could have guided me or helped me get through that, including family, like God and his love that wrapped around me, and just knowing who he was before I even entered that storm. So that was my foundation, was my personal intimate relationship with him, that pivot me at the times when I wanted to give up. I didn't, because I knew, and I had his word within me to encourage and to motivate me to keep on persevering through. And sometimes we've got to look at life in the way that when storms come, it's not so much as it's for you, but it's for somebody else. Um, when we say, God, I'm available, use me, I want to live for you, you're now saying that you want to be a vessel that he can do whatever he chooses to do through you. And that in itself is a major blessing, for God to trust you enough to give you that battle, to allow you to give him the glory through everything that you're going through, and to still say, you know what, Lord, yet though this thing has got me, I'm going to trust you, because I know in the end, victory is mine. You paid it all when you sent your son to the cross. And if you paid it all, I'm walking in victory. Whether it looks like it, whether I feel like it, whether they even say it, I'm trusting you, because you're my ultimate physician. You're my Jehovah Rapha, and all my trust is in you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Amen.
You're welcome.
Linda. Okay, Marlena.
Yes. So here's the thing. So when I received my diagnosis in 2018, I would say about 3 to 4 years before that, God had been telling me to leave the position that I was in as far as my career. I was a background investigator for the federal government. So I was comfortable living my life, had a flexible schedule, going here and there as I please with my appointments and earning money. And God was telling me, you need to go back to school to be a therapist. And I was like, no, no, God, I'm not doing that, because I'm gonna pay for it. I haven't been in school since '99. I finished Jackson State University in 1999. And at this point, it is 2015, 2014. And I'm saying, no, I haven't been in school in a long time. How am I going to pay for it? I'm giving all these excuses, of course.
Mhm.
So then when I got the diagnosis, I said, oh, okay, Lord, let me sit down somewhere and start researching, what are some of these possibilities for me to go back to school. And so I knew that I needed to be in a school that had an in-person setup. And so I just started researching. And originally I was going to go to Mercer. I'm in the Metro Atlanta area. I was going to go to Mercer. I wanted a Christian-based program. So I was going to do 2 degrees. There was the degree with the divinity school, and there was the actual clinical mental health counseling degree. Well, fast forward, I'm on the chemo pills, and there were some side effects that occurred while I was on those pills. And one was my heart would race. And so I recall going to Stone Mountain, and something that I would normally do is trail walking. It was never an issue for me. But when I tried to do the walking up Stone Mountain, I couldn't even go halfway. And so I ended up telling the nurse practitioner at my radiation oncologist office. I'm telling her this story. I'm boohoo crying. She asked, had I talked to the social worker? I said, I know who she is. I haven't talked to her. End up talking with her. And ultimately, she suggested that I talk to a therapist. And had asked me, had I? At this point, this is the end of my cancer journey. I'd done all of the treatments. And so I found through my insurance a counselor, and my social worker also told me to look the person up on Psychology Today. So that's a reference for the viewers as well. When you're looking for a counselor or therapist, make sure you also look up their information on Psychology Today, just to kind of get a better picture of what they're about. So the person that I found, I called, there was no answer. I said, surely this is a legitimate person. Well, I ended up Googling the person, couldn't find anything other than a retirement announcement for some place called Richmont Graduate University. So then I said, well, what is that? I Googled Richmont Graduate University, and what do you know? God just completely blessed me, because not only was it a graduate school, but it is a Christian-based graduate school with a degree that included a master's in clinical mental health counseling. 1 degree, Christian-based. I found the place that I was going to go to.
Wow.
Fast forward, I started in August 2020, and I will be finishing in May 2023. And it's really just a testimony of me finally listening to God and what He was telling me to do to be able to fulfill the purpose that He has for my life. And I think it's very important that when you hear these things, whether it's through dreams or other people, whatever the signs are, when God is telling you something, it's very important that you actually listen and go about and do what He is asking you to do, because He's not going to lead you astray. He's going to lead you to places where you have never even thought of. And so I just feel, just really blessed, and I'm really humbled about how I've come into all of the different situations that I've been able to be a part of.
And forgive me, my internet is acting up, so I'm going in and going out. So forgive me. I'm going to bring Latoya Wiggins up and let her come and share with us. Good evening, Latoya. How are you?
Good, and you all?
Okay. Welcome to the Speakeasy. Tell the audience who you are and what it is that you do.
So my name is Dr. Latoya Wiggins, and I am a self-care strategist. My main focus is Christian women, and I transition those moms who are Christian women from worn out to winning. I teach them how to no longer feel depleted, but develop healthy habits to be nourished, renewed, and rejuvenated with biblical principles that bring peace instead of self-pity. You still running around, Constance? I guess as we wait for her, yeah. So my focus is pretty much self care. I love to talk about self care.
It's definitely important. I realize that doing all the things that I do, self-care is so critical in your
Yes,
Yes.
everyday life.
Yes.
right. Yeah, everyday life. I like to talk about it because I want to help people prevent diseases like we're
Hmm.
talking about now, breast cancer awareness. But at the same time, sometimes we can't prevent,
Right.
disease. So, but self care helps you to manage those diseases, so you either preventing it or managing, on the other end. Some things, like I said, we just can't control what we get. The breast cancer situation, there's risk factors that we can avoid and some things we can't avoid. I can't control
Hmm.
that I'm a black woman, and other hereditary traits. What can I do? What can I do on my end to help prevent the disease? If a disease comes up, how can I keep myself thriving, while dealing with the disease?
Hmm.
Yeah. We want to keep
Wow.
talking in case Constance is there. Constance, you there?
I'm here. Like I said, my internet keeps going in and out, but I'm here. And I'm sorry, I was muted. But no, my internet keeps going in and out. I've given up on the camera. But we're going
Mm-hmm.
to keep this podcast going. So, Latoya, thank you so much for sharing. And
You're
so,
welcome.
what guidance do you have to offer as far as nutritional tips and wellness tips?
Yeah, so kind of started getting on that that part. So again, we can't control everything. We can't control our genes, our family history. Um, but what we can do is control our weight or being overweight in general. That's a risk factor for breast cancer. So that's something that we can control. Um, what we eat and drink,
Hmm.
those things. So, limiting alcohol or eliminating it altogether, that's something that we can do. A healthy diet of just a well-rounded diet in general. So there's no really research like this particular diet can prevent breast cancer, but simply eating healthy, making sure you're getting your whole grain, like the wheat bread, and rye breads, healthy fats. So a lot of times people hear the word fat and think you shouldn't be eating any fats, but healthy fats are fine. For like your nut butters, your olive oils, those things are healthy. Your avocados, those are things that help to eliminate the waste from our body. So we need that healthy fat. Vegetables, you know that. Eat your vegetables. We've been told that since we were kids. Eating your vegetables, your fruits, and make sure you're not overeating. Because that overeating can contribute to weight gain. And then all of those things I've been talking about. That's the physical portion of self care. We want to make sure that we are nourishing ourselves mentally. So finding time to de-stress or minimize stress as possible. We can't always prevent it altogether, but minimizing stress, preventing the burnout. So we could be doing things such as spending time with God. If you're a spiritual Christian woman. I know I heard Marlena talking about faith, and yeah, both of you talking about faith. That's the big thing. So making sure you're spending that time with God, making sure that you're focused, that spiritual health, making sure you're spending some time to just de-stress. Day self care is something you should be doing daily. So whether that's some quiet time by yourself,
Hmm.
relaxation, dancing, whatever makes you feel good inside. And I like to talk about the physical, mental, and spiritual health because they all are intertwined. One thing affects another. So if I'm not taking good care of my body, it's going to affect my mental health. I mean, I want to spend time with God because I feel like crap. If I'm not spending time with God, I want to care about, what I'm doing up here and down here in my belly. So we have to make sure that we are nourishing ourselves holistically for a healthier and happier body. Um, and then one thing I just want to add personal experience with breast cancer, but I had a friend. I'm 42. She was diagnosed at 36 years old and yes, she's a 6-year survivor. So thank God for that. But I always used to ask her, like, what's something that you wish you had known before, while you were going through the treatment. And one of the biggest things that she wanted me to tell you all is, if you are somebody that's in the middle of going through treatment or preparing for treatment, make sure, this goes back to that mental health piece, make sure that you're not listening to just advice, unwanted advice. We all have our loved ones who want to help you, but in the end, it's what you want to do for yourself, and listen to the experts, not even just one expert. Sometimes you may need to talk to several different doctors before you make that final decision on a type of treatment you want. So make sure that you are making the decision that you want to, make for yourself and your treatment, your health, and also she said, if anybody is going through, any kind of treatments, radiation and chemo, if you can, it's really good to try to schedule those things like on a Friday, like right before the weekend. If you have any side effects, it really gives you some time to really recover on the weekend. So that goes back to, that physical and mental health. You have some time to just kind of decompress and reset yourself. And what was the other thing she told me that I really loved? Oh, the like with chemo, sometimes you lose your hair. So, especially with women, that could affect our mental health or, because it's a physical component. So just recommending, if you feel like your hair's coming out, just go ahead and cut that thing off. Get it done and over with. So you can really just start like embracing that piece, that journey that you're about to go on with the hair loss. One thing I love about Black women is we can rock a wig and nobody will even know. And then, sometimes we just make it too, where you just get comfortable with just embracing, how you those are different things you need to consider for the mental health piece. So bottom line, do what's going to make you happy, not what's going to make Coach Linda happy, Constance happy, Marlena, not me. Do what's going to make you happy. So make sure you put that quiet time with God. Talk to him about what's best for you.
Amen. So where can we find you on social media?
Social media, I am at She is a Nourished Mom on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Those are my main hangouts, and I've been trying to get more get on LinkedIn more often. She is a Nourished Mom.
Okay. And Coach Linda, what about you?
Same thing. Coach Linda Brooks Johnson, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and you'll find me.
Okay. And Marlena?
Yes, on Instagram, pink_ova, OVA_everything is where you can find me in relation to breast cancer advocacy and awareness, and LinkedIn, Marlena Murphy.
Okay, thank you. And so this has been a very good session. I thank all three of you for joining us. And to our listening audience, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, may God bless you today, tomorrow, and always. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.